We've got a lively bunch in the room, so we're going to go ahead and get started ahead of ourselves. It's about, I think, about a minute and a half to one, but close enough for government work. Hey, Johnny Knoxville's in the house, asked where Greta Van Fleet is from. If anybody knew that, looking it up. And of course, I'm the guy from Michigan who used to work in Frankenmuth, and Greta Van Fleet is a band from Frankenmuth, and they've actually hit the national stage. They've been on Saturday Night Live, for instance, and one of their songs is the official song they play when the Saginaw Spirit scores goals in hockey games up there in Saginaw. And it's interesting music. Some people think they are reminiscent of a young Led Zeppelin. Think back to 1930s. But yeah, I like them. They're good. Greta Van Fleet. Mark Miller's in the house. Johnny Knoxville, by the way, points out that the temperature in Bad Axe is very similar to that in North Carolina. Very well could be. I show 71 degrees and sunshine. It's nice out right now. So, and by the way, I forgot to check if the Mets are playing today. Somebody please check it for me. My friend's stepson, AJ Ewing's been having a pretty good time of it. A couple nights ago, he had 2 hits, 4 at-bats, and he also scored a run and stole a base. So he's fast. He is very fast. I believe he's almost always got the green light when he's on first base. So Mark Miller's in the house. Andrew Zupke as well. Hello, all you beautiful people. Idris Taylor. Hi, all. Grumpy Australian. Greetings from the land down under. Yeah, it's real early there tomorrow, right? Carl's Corner. Hello. Hello, William Page, Dr. Rick, Brenda Jackson, Terry Rose, Investor, Tim Nossum. Good afternoon, Steve. I appreciate that, my friend. Miko Angel, glad to see you again. Hello, almost all the snow is gone here. Almost all the snow is gone here. Safe on net. I was in the Upper Peninsula just yesterday. I drove up Friday, came back Saturday, and I did not see any snow, but my understanding is there is still some snow where there'd been some pretty deep piles, and it hasn't quite all melted just yet. Echo Tracks is checking in with the 13th light. Good day. GRB Chaser, are you going to report on the bricks and Minifig's case? I'm probably going to. I've gotten about 100 links to that, but it continues to unfold. And so I'm going to let it continue unfolding, and then we'll see how it plays out. Lemerton wrote something which I can't read. I'm just trying to be funny here. Tyler Pasquale, hello from a rainy 66, South Carolina. Can't wait for the new book to come in. How about those Spurs, Thomas Urus 1? It's beautiful in Barrie, Ontario, or at least so says Alex Nandy. Marlins at Mets at 1:40, so 40 minutes. So I don't know why they start these games at 1:40. That's been the time of a bunch of them recently. So we will probably have to follow along and look to see if, in fact, AJ's got a good game going on. They also keep moving him around in the batting order. He was batting 8th at one point. One point he was batting 3rd. Yesterday he's batting 5th or 6th. And I'll admit there's been times where the game is on, I see him bat, and I take a mental note, come back in 10 minutes and check again, and then go on and watch something else. Coffee Guy, good afternoon, Steve. I am McNathan. Hello, everyone from Sun City, Center, Florida. Verner's, Stephanie House. Somebody mentioned Verner's above. Yeah, Verner's is good stuff. Good stuff. A long-standing, old-fashioned beverage from Michigan. So Johnny Plays is from Munson, Ohio, near Cleveland. Okay, I've never heard of Munson, Ohio, so thank you for letting me know that. Lewis Browning is celebrating the last day of May with a cold glass of Verner's in a red cup. Well, good guess, but I've got a blue today. Although, like I said, I got mine randomly. There's 4 colors to choose from, and I only rarely do they work out to where they'll match up. Randy Regal, edit your videos in 23 hours and only $89.99. You know, at that price, I think you're shortchanging yourself. How about if I double that and give you 48 hours? Prodigal Stranger thinks that 1:40 game time might give you enough time to go to church, get home, watch the game, and then get the kids to bed. And baseball games, by the way, do move a little faster these days. I thought the pitch clock would be annoying, but I've actually learned to love it. However, I'm still not too crazy about the instant replay on everything but you got to make a call on the pitches. And they've got a machine that can call balls and strikes perfectly. In fact, if you appeal a pitch, they go to it and say yes or no. It's considered definitive. They should just go with that. Paul Thomas here. Did you hear about the meteor that fell in the Bay of Boston? It was captured on video passing through the atmosphere. I've heard there was also something that happened in North Carolina that was a loud sonic boom. They're not quite sure what it was. Johnny Knoxville, look out for Roxy and Rexy Porsches this weekend at the Detroit Grand Prix. I forgot that Detroit still has a Grand Prix, and they do it, and pretty much nobody here cares. It's just one of those things. Oh, that's right. Avoid downtown Detroit, right? Thomas Urus, what do you think of the new truck engine recalls? Truck recalls are so commonplace; they're not news anymore. In fact, I think Ford last year had like one a day. So Clifton Robinson, hey, how to get a felony case set aside? You mean a felony conviction? Like whether you can get it expunged or not? It's going to vary wildly from state to state. John Zablak, your t-shirt is very large. Did you lose some weight? I might have lost a little bit, but not enough to make the weight visibly obvious. So I suspect it's just that I'm sitting in such a way that the wrinkles look more pronounced. See that right there too? That right there. You pose to take a picture. First thing you suck in your gut, and then you, what do I do to look a little younger? Prodigal Stranger says, ditch that pitch clock. Game should be 3+ hours. Think about back in the day when those games were 3.5 hours long, and you go to a doubleheader. It literally just write your entire day off. Time you can never get back. Nick Bradley says cyber umps make it even faster and fairer. Now, it's true that a lot of these bad calls do get reversed, but I've seen a few where they appeal it, and the line is here, and the ball is right there, and it's just enough on to where it became a strike. And you're looking at that going, but I've also seen where it was off by like a fraction of an inch, and then they just lost their appeal. Tim Nossum, but watching coaches argue and kick dirt in the umpire's shoes is quite entertaining. I've always, and this, by the way, this is an argument starter. A couple of things I disagree with in sports, and one of them is managers arguing with umpires. A manager should be allowed to walk out to the umpire and say, excuse me, what was that call? Why'd you make that call? Because someone gets called safe at home plate. Did they miss the tag? Did they beat the tag? Or was there something else going on? But when the old days, when Billy Martin or Sparky Anderson would come out screaming and yelling and kicking dirt and throwing their hat, I always thought the ump should literally look at them and go, I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3, you're gone. And because think of this, in the old days, how many times did you ever see an umpire go, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Martin, you're right. I'm wrong. We're going to reverse that call for you. Now, some people claimed that if you came out and screamed and yelled at the umpire, that'll make them less likely to make a bad call in the future. No, most bad calls aren't made intentionally. They're made by either somebody missing something or incompetence. Angel Hernandez, excuse me. But the other thing I disagree with, and this is not popular, and I'm not trying to start a fight here, but what's not popular is I believe that fighting in hockey should be eliminated. It's the only sport that allows fighting. It's the dumbest thing ever. Can you imagine if in basketball, two guys started pummeling each other and you say, okay, let them fight for a little while. Then we'll give them each 2 minutes in a penalty box or 5 minutes. And you go, but Steve, they're wearing equipment. Okay, fine. How about football players? Are they allowed to throw punches? They're wearing equipment. And so, it's just, to me, it's always been annoying. Dan Boyd says the managers could hire John McEnroe as an advocate. There was something always entertaining about McEnroe arguing a call. because I saw a few where he was right and the lines judges were off and he's screaming at them. What are you, blind? And it's but on the other hand, if he's wrong, it just makes him look stupid. So yeah, Jennifer's, don't forget Earl Weaver, famous for kicking dirt on the ump and also kicking dirt over the home plate, make him sweep it off. Oh. MHOH says, you want to watch a long baseball game, watch the Cubans play in Olympic preliminaries. Oh. Silent Hangus says automatic pitch calls are kind of like automatic traffic tickets. Not really, though, because balls and strikes are supposed to be balls and strikes. And an automatic traffic ticket camera to be like that would be like if you just randomly got a ticket and you didn't know it was correct or not. You know, you got a ticket for speeding, you got to appeal it. Oh, turns out you weren't. Oh boy. AC Moreland says, yeah, you got to keep him honest for the next call. Like I said, an incompetent umpire is not going to change because you yelled at him. Johnny Knoxville says, if you take hitting out of football and fighting out of hockey, you have to ban the UFC. No, but the thing is, those are explicitly designed to allow punching and kicking. Well, ban UFC allows kicking. Boxing generally doesn't. But can you imagine? I mean, it just seems odd to me that and I've heard people claim it's because the game is so fast paced, and these guys do hit each other sometimes a little bit too hard, and that is what the referees are for, and the penalty box, and so on. Robert Eisenman, have you ever been to the Detroit Grand Prix? No. My understanding is it's kind of hard to witness in person without paying a lot of money and getting stuck someplace weird. I've been downtown Detroit and seen the hydroplane races on the Detroit River, like the Gold Cup, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. MHOH says, I remember when they didn't hold the games during commercials, they'd come back and there's some guy running after a hit. That's one of the reasons that baseball, I think, is still doing so well compared to, I think baseball is a little slow moving of a sport myself, but I played it as a child. I appreciate it. Baseball is made for television because they know how many commercial breaks are going to be. It's not so important where they are. They don't have to be at the top or bottom of the hour, but they know there's going to be, before the first inning, during the first inning, and between the first and second innings, and so on. So there you go. Oh, Johnny Knoxville, speaking from a safety perspective, MMA ain't a whole lot safe about it. You think that boxers or football players suffer from that brain injury from too many hits to the head? Yeah, MMA is going to have a whole generation of that coming up. Guaranteed. Mexican Spec, good morning, Steve. Good morning, my friend. Steve, I think they allow fighting in NASCAR. There's been a little bit of fighting. Remember that? Remember the Allison brothers involved in that one fight at the end of a race? David Zarodnansky, they should allow fighting in golf. They should encourage it. They should encourage you to hit the balls at other players. I've often thought, and by the way, I like the Savannah Bananas and the banana ball baseball. I think it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's a blast. They've found ways to make the game faster moving. And I've often said, though, they should bring back the beanball. And in the earliest days of baseball, if a runner was running, you could throw the ball at him, and if you hit him, he was out. Throw a thrown ball. Of course, if you missed him, the ball might go someplace crazy. You might get 3 more bases. But that's the only rule I thought they should get back. Lewis Browning, did you get the book? You'll have to remind me. I got so much stuff in the last week. I got something from you. I can't remember what it was. Johnny Knoxville, they should allow fighting in court TV live trial. So here's the thing. Johnny, you're actually onto something. In the old days, There was a time where if you had a feud with somebody else, you could challenge them to a duel. And it wasn't just always a duel to the death, but it was in essence you saying, "We're going to settle this outside." And since court TV and its equivalents are all people agreeing to do stuff, they could probably come up with a reality show where you go to court, but instead of settling it with a judge, you toss them a pair of boxing gloves each and say, you get 10 minutes. And whoever looks prettiest at the end of this wins. Trial by combat, the great Quidjabo. Yeah, automatic walks, the worst rule in baseball right now. It could be Dr. Eumagus, or it could be Drumagus. I apologize. Can't tell. But yeah, no. I think they should make him go through the motions of throwing the ball and all that stuff just for the fun of it. I've been following the Lego scandal, E.T. Brown. I've not studied up on it. I've not done a video, and I will one of these days. Johnny Knoxville says, remember the duels in cartoons where one character would take one less step and just shoot the other one in the back. Oh, boy. Yeah, the great Quidjabo and others have said that we did, in fact, have a show that allowed people to solve their problems through violence. It was called the Jerry Springer Show. The question is, um, I wonder what kind of waivers those people signed, you know, because it looked real like they were slow to break up the violence. Crater Face, my daughter logged in and said that with her tablet, forgot my account was on her phone. She's watching. Keep everything adult, please. I'm a Gen X dad. Okay, well, I generally don't say anything to keep this anything less than PG, but we'll see how it goes. Chris Dope says, I'm a CPA and I always thought we could do a reality show on getting your taxes prepared. You'll have to sell me a little more on how you're going to dress that one up. Prodigal Stranger says, I think for intentional walks, put the guy on base, but don't bother with the tosses. "65 is not elderly. What is your favorite Paul Newman movie?" I like The Verdict, believe it or not. Although I'm sure I probably like other ones as well. But I've always liked The Verdict, and it's a lawyer movie, and I actually put it up there amongst my favorite lawyer movies. Johnny Knoxville, Sally Jesse, Raphael. People forget that the woman with those red glasses originally had a radio talk show first. Then they put her on TV and she joined the fray with all the other people who came after Phil Donahue. And it was interesting because after a while, it's like people realized that like Phil Donahue could do an entire show on jealousy. Jealousy. We'll bring in a couple people to talk about jealousy. Then we'll bring in a couple experts who are experts in jealousy, and then we'll ask the audience for questions and answers about jealousy. And 10 years later, it's like my three-legged cat thinks it's a dog. And see, I had to keep that clean for somebody whose child might be watching. John Zabelak, Cool Hand Luke. Well, Cool Hand Luke is a classic. It is a classic. I think what we got here is failure to communicate. Hey, what's your dirt doing in my hole? Oh boy. Drew Megas says Slapshot. Only Paul Newman movie I know. Best hockey movie. I have to imagine about 95% of the budget for that went into getting Paul Newman into the movie. But yeah, it's a good movie. Johnny Knoxville, don't forget Ricky Lake. Ricky Lake was an attempt to appeal to younger viewers who might want to watch some crazy talk show stuff. MH08, Letterman had an afternoon show. I believe in many markets it was in the morning. I'm not sure about the afternoon. And it did not do well because most people didn't know what the heck he was up to. 65 is not elderly. He says, what about The Hustler? The Hustler is a good movie also. Um, the only problem I've got with The Hustler is there's a character in there called Minnesota Fats, and then some guy came along and started calling himself Minnesota Fats, and then made everyone think that the movie was based on him, which it was not. Oh, Belio points out that the car wash girl Joy Harmon in Cool Hand Luke, and if you saw the movie, you know what we're talking about, passed away in April. And of course, it was a scene in which Joy Harmon was washing her car on a hot day in front of a group of men who were on a chain gang working in the hot sun who hadn't seen a woman in quite some time. Mark Miller, The Color of Money. Yeah, The Color of Money was decent. But it was one of those sequels that came a long, long time later. But uh yeah, it was okay for me. Dan Boyd Morton Downey Jr. That guy's show, when it burst onto the scene, people at first watched it and then they thought, this gets tiring after a while. And its ratings is, and then he was involved in an incident where people were thinking, was he telling the truth about what happened to him there? Alex and Andy, wasn't Paul Newman in The Sting? I believe he was. I'm not a big fan of that movie. I think there's some large plot holes, but we won't get there. Echo Track says Letterman's show was in the 9 a.m. slot for a bit. Yeah, I forgot the exact time, but I know it was a morning show, and it made no sense. MHOA wasn't Minnesota Fats a pool player? Yes, and The Hustler is about pool. There's a pool player in that movie whose name is Minnesota Fats, and the character is not based on a real person. And be kind of like I just started calling myself, I don't know, Top Gun. Call me Top Gun from now on. And people go, that's the guy. That's the guy the movie was made about. Sure, sure, sure. Prodigal Stranger Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Kenneth Bennington, Lou Gordon, Channel 50 in Detroit. People got to realize there was a guy in Detroit on Channel 50, WKBD, which I think stood for Kaiser Broadcasting Detroit, Channel 50 talk show, who was a little bit out there. And he was way ahead of his time for being out there. But he'd bring people on his show who would talk about the craziest stuff. Craziest stuff. And he didn't care. And he treated them all with respect. And I remember watching this guy going, I wonder if the guest is correct. And it turns out half of them were just Looney Tunes, but it's fun to watch. Fatty Butterpan says his favorite Newman is, in fact, the salad dressing. Johnny Knoxville, Morton Downey Jr. died in 2001. Yeah, he died a while back. And I remember it made the news when he died quite a while back. T-Bone, Belio, T-Bone. Coco is really giving it to T-Bone. Peter Mandix, my mom loved Phil Donahue because everything he did to support women's rights. Phil Donahue, I think, was a decent guy. Although Phil Hartman did a great Phil Donahue impression on Saturday Night Live. But I remember watching Phil Donahue. I, for a while, had a job in an office where there was a TV set that was not connected to a cable. It just got over the air. And so occasionally we would watch Phil Donahue, the Dukes of Hazzard. I'm trying to remember the other afternoon shows we watched. And some of that stuff is mind numbing, but there was nothing else on, and long before cable was that widespread. MHOA to call myself MHOA. Fat Frost Bolt. Anyone know if he's talked about the bricks and minifig insanity? First of all, I don't talk about stuff like that on live streams. I generally talk more random stuff here. And about 4 or 5 people have already asked about it and are going to continue asking. So I feel like I can't keep mentioning this, but I have not done a video on it yet, but I will. but I'm waiting for it to settle down a little bit because I see new stuff every single day. And what will happen is I'll post a video and people go, "Oh, dude, you missed this fact, you missed that fact." And I'm sick of saying, "Well, I shot that before that was publicized." Well, you're still an idiot. So, Primus. Hello, Steve. Hope you're having a good Sunday. I am. MHOA used to haul a Korean who owned a Mexican pool hall. He didn't speak English, so he spoke in Spanish. So the Korean spoke Spanish. Oh, Mark Miller, thank you. Absence of Malice was a good Paul Newman movie. Last time we had a leak this big, Noah built himself a boat. Absence of Malice is a great movie. It's not a lawyer movie, but it is a legal movie. There's legal issues there. And I love that movie. That is one of my favorite Paul Newman movies. So there you go. MD Hofsky remembers watching Phil Donahue when he interviewed Milton Friedman to explain economics. Yeah, that's not something that would have happened on Jerry Springer. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about the gross domestic product and its relationship to stagflation. Oh, Chris Bedesa, wildlife in the yard this past week. I've been having a possum. I don't see him with my own eyes, but he pops up on my cameras all the time. And he's been in the yard every single day for about a week straight. He probably lives nearby, but he just started showing up in the last couple weeks. Yeah, Johnny Knoxville, my friend, went to Berkeley, and she used to see Primus in basements back in those days when they would start their shows with, "We're Primus, and we suck." And we actually had a discussion about that exact topic a couple months ago because somebody mentioned Primus. And I said, I know who they are, but I don't know much about them. And people just started chiming in with Primus sucks, Primus sucks. And I'm like, guys, come on, come on, come on. And I didn't realize that it was a shout out that they would appreciate. So there you go. MH08, this stream always leaves me with a new list of movies to watch. You mean you haven't seen those movies? Phil Hartman was also Captain Carl, Pee Wee's Playhouse, Vianicus. MD Hofsky wants to remind us that he was not actually around watching those shows live with Phil Donahue. They're often on YouTube. There you go. Jason Brindemar's checking in. He's late, he says. But quite frankly, like I said before, if you're here, you're here. Yeah, and of course, Primus is Larry Leland, Tim Alexander, Les Claypool. Steve also pointed out along with Johnny Knoxville. So, Prodigal Strangers to Primus sucks a lot, like throwing Mentos, the Foo Fighters, or probably throwing macaroni and cheese to Bare Naked Ladies. I've seen them play several times, and the macaroni and cheese flies, but luckily it's in boxes. So it's not messy, but it probably hurts if you get hit by one. Dan Boyd, Phil Hartman had the greatest voice, and you said it's singular. He also had the greatest voices. He did great voices, but he's also a very, very funny guy. Echo Tracks is Paul Newman in Where the Money is a good late career flick if you can find it. That actually doesn't ring a bell for me. So I'm going to have to say I don't know about it. I don't think. Belios is possums. Just wait till armadillos show up. Armadillos have been heading north. Armadillos apparently do spread out, and they're based largely on the temperature. Now, I don't know if armadillos will go someplace where it snows. I'm not sure what they would do in the snow, but I've heard they're heading north. I think they've got them in like Indiana now, maybe, or maybe southern Illinois or something. So, Daniel Kester, how about the CRL, Canadian Robot Lady? How is she today? She's not here today. She was here briefly last week. I did not talk to her this past week, so I don't know when she'll be here next. Oh, MD Hofsty says go look up clips from news radio when he is working with a young Joe Rogan who's got hair. Joe Rogan played a conspiracy theorist on news radio, which somehow turns out to be quite appropriate. Echo Tracks, Newman plays a retired bank robber living in a rest home, planning one of the last heists with Linda Fiorentino. Well, that's a fun planning job. Where the money is, of course, that's because that's where banks, they keep the money. Robert Eisenman, who was the commentator on WGR, had a great voice. There were several of them. Frank Beckman had a great voice. There's Ernie Harwell, who did baseball for years. Paul Harvey? No, Paul Harvey was on a lot of different radio stations. Johnny Plays just turned 21, is unfamiliar with most of the shows and pretty much all the movies we talked about since we started. Sorry about that. One thing you do gain with age is a little bit of a knowledge and perspective, which you'll have to pick up on your own. But if you were to make a list of the movies that we mentioned above and notice which ones people agreed with others on and watch them, you'd probably appreciate them. Some of the movies, like The Verdict, is an older movie. There's not a lot of car chases and explosions and shootouts and stuff blowing up. But trust me, it's good. It's good. William Page, you can drive over an armadillo. You'll think you hit an improvised boom device. I ran over a dead animal the other day and it damaged my truck. It's fixed now, but wow. JJ says WKRP is now on the air. That's a reminder, but they're on the air in the sense that there is a radio station in Cincinnati called WKRP Cincinnati. Their call letters were being used for a while on a station, I think in Kentucky, maybe. But I had a bumper sticker somebody sent me from that WKRP, but they've returned. The Trav Abide says, have you ever been to the Doritos farm? It's a cool ranch. No, it would have been the Domino's farm. Domino's farm is outside of Ann Arbor, founded by the Domino's folks. And among other things, they keep buffalo on the property. MD Hofsty says it's when Joe Rogan is tasked to fill in and he kills it with no notes on the stories. And it pisses off Phil's character so much. I just died when watching it. I prefer the manager. Oh, Stephen Root is the manager. He's good. Actually, the whole show is good. It's one of my favorite ensemble cast shows. I've seen it all several times. It's like Just Shoot Me. I love that show also. Great characters, but news radio was fantastic. I loved that show. Darkwood's first date with his wife was seeing Absence of Malice. Wow. JBM says armadillos can carry leprosy, so don't play with the roadkill. Okay. And don't pet the armored possum either. Primus says, I don't know how many know the movie Stay Tuned. That movie's underrated. I'm unfamiliar with it. Jerry Dodge, did you hear about the radio tower that mysteriously went missing a while back? The one down south? I did a video about one that went missing. And there was a big controversy about how real the story was. And I got a bunch of grief from people saying, well, the story makes no sense. And in the video, I said, I'm not even sure how much sense this story makes, but it's been widely reported. And it was a situation where I think the station was off the air and the tower was down and somebody stole it for the scrap. I mean, Mexican Spec points out that David Foley is the manager, although occasionally he's not. And Stephen Root is the station owner. That's true. Pontiac Junkbird greets from Wasp. It's a great day for a drive. Perfect day for a drive. I agree. In fact, I might take a vehicle out this afternoon. We'll see, depending on the chance of rain as to which vehicle I take. Dan Boyd did not like Andy Dick in news radio. I actually thought his character was interesting. Character is quite odd, but interesting. Oh, stay tuned with John Ritter. John Ritter. I'll have to check that out. I'm not up on my John Ritter movies. I know I know he's a lot of TV stuff. Echo Track says News Radio's Maura Tierney, the crush of every thinking man. Silent Hangus says he saw someone mention your videos in the comments on a Facebook post about Montana ruling against corner crossing. That's funny. You know, I get that from time to time. People send me screen grabs, go, "Hey, check it out. Somebody's talking about you," which is fine. You know, it probably helps. I was in a restaurant about 50 to 60 miles from where I live, and I sat down, and the owner of the restaurant walked up and said, "Excuse me, are you on YouTube?" I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "Steve Lehto." Nice to meet you, my friend. So, Dougie Doo, hello, Mr. Lehto. Do you do any gardening? Gardening. If you talk about actually like digging in the ground and planting things and harvesting things, no. I do have a large yard, which I mow. I also have other yard equipment. I've got a brush cutter, a line trimmer. I've got powered trimming, hedge trimmers. And so I do clean up stuff like that, but that's more yard work to me, not gardening. And I do that quite a bit because I've got a good decent amount of grass to mow. Nenson Dubois says it really is a small world. And by the way, it could be Dubois or Dubois. I've actually known somebody whose last name was Dubois and they pronounce it Dubois. Dubois. Like, hey, we're in America now. Say, do you ever buy gasoline at Costco? No, I do not. Um, I shop at Costco from time to time, but I never buy gas there. The Costco I shop at is not handy for buying gas. Stormtrooper 88. Hi, Steve. I see we have my shirt on. Do you have one of these? It is an Eddie Bauer shirt. I wore one the other day on a video that went up on my other channel, and it was blank like this, and it apparently didn't say Eddie Bauer. And somebody's like, "Oh my God, his shirt's blank!" But I do that on the other channel from time to time. Silent Hangus, why doesn't Montana have to follow the ruling from Wyoming regarding corner crossing? I'd have to think about that for a moment, but one thing you have to remember is that rules regarding trespassing are state law. So a ruling out of one state might not affect another state unless it's a federal court ruling at the appellate level that covers both states. And it's been so long since I looked at that. Mark Miller, speaking of grass, how are those poles you put up? I mentioned this a few weeks ago. I replaced the poles with Canadian fieldstone, boulders about this big. And so far, nobody's hit them. And the drivers have slowed down considerably. I've actually watched the drivers. They used to just zoom out, and now they zoom carefully because they realize that there's no margin for error. None. Belio, I buy Kroger gas all the time. Yeah, Kroger's got in on that as well. Darkwood thread the needle. You know what's interesting is I put the stakes, the driveway is here, and the stake was like right here, like right up against the cement. I put the rocks away from the cement so I can, weed whack and I'll have grass growing there. So the rocks are technically further back. So there's more space than there was before, but visually, your brain says there's a rock there and a rock there. Don't hit them. And it changes behavior. I was kind of surprised. Is Marjan K. Cavusi in the house? Oh, what do you think about 15%? Methanol in the gasoline? I'm not up on my chemistry. Mini driver, ever thought about getting into backyard beekeeping? I've got 6 hives in the back. I have not. I've got enough room. I probably could set some up, but if it takes a lot of work, it's not something I don't need any more hobbies. I've got a good friend who does keep bees. Sub GR, good afternoon from Flint, Michigan. And to you, my friend. Boomer, what was the import fees of the Canadian fieldstones? That's the funniest thing of all, is that I'm at the rock supply place and there's a pile of Canadian fieldstone. And the guy goes, yeah, these are Canadian fieldstone. And I go, is that just a name or do they actually come from Canada? And he goes, these ones came from Canada. I go, so you're telling me that somebody in Canada gathers up the fieldstone and then puts them in trucks and drives them across the border and goes through customs? He goes, yes. They still weren't that expensive, though. Johnny Knoxville, between model railroading, bonsai, radio-controlled cars, traveling, coffee, motorsports, I don't need more hobbies. What about watch collecting? You can always start collecting watches. MD Hofsty says it's crazy, but they did speed studies that show if you put more things on the side of the road, it slows traffic down without changing the speed limits. They did it with poles. I wouldn't be surprised by that because I think your brain perceives things in the peripheral vision, and the more that's there, the closer it seems. So there you go. Nico Pessola checks in. Greetings, Finland. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for checking in. And I'm guessing Pessola is the last name and Nico is the first name. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. I was in Hancock, Michigan yesterday. At this point, I was already halfway home, but I started out in Hancock. And Hancock has all the signs are in Finnish and in English. And it's one of the most Finn-centric places in the state of, in the whole country, but especially in the state of Michigan. Johnny Knoxville, I do own a modest Swatch collection and hope to own a Rolex Pepsi someday. Oh, boy. Lock Watcher, you started without me. Well, we waited 40 minutes. No, I was kidding. Oh, Johnny Knoxville says, if you were in Hancock, Michigan, where is that on your hand? Well, that's the problem, is that the lower peninsula is like this, the upper peninsula is like this, and Hancock is about right there of the upper peninsula, and this would be the Keweenaw Peninsula. So way up there. But I talk about it so often, I assumed you all knew where it was. MH08 wants an explanation on one of the Canadian robot lady's sayings. Her saying, I cannot, I will not. These things aren't here for further dissection. They're here as thought starters, thought provokers. And if it doesn't speak to you, it might not. I think that's from a movie. I could be wrong, but I don't question her. I just say, hey, this is your real estate. You deal with it as you see fit. Fatima Butterpants, did you do your best twisted sister and saying, I want a rock? I want 8 rocks. Fast Eddie. Hello from DFW. How many books have you written total? 5. It's closer to 15, but you can't find them all. A few of them are out of print. A few of them were ebooks that I wrote that I put up, then I took down. And I also have ghost written a book or two. My name does not appear on the book. So if you're asking, like, how many books do you have right now that I should be out looking for? There's 5 or 6. And a few of them, like I said, the odds of them appealing to the mass audience, even slimmer. MD Hofsky points out that the Mets game just started, the Marlins at bat. Thank you for telling me. I forgot to look up where AJ Ewing is in the batting order, but please let me know when he comes up to bat. We'll follow along. Belio aren't even decent used Rolex Pepsi's 8,000. I'm not familiar with the Rolex Pepsi. Rolex Pepsi? I'd love them, but not going to pay that. Johnny Knoxville, holy moly, Hancock to Detroit is an 8-hour drive. Okay, Grandpa. No, actually, I had great traffic. I drove up Friday, but I left my house at 5 o'clock in the morning. I was rolling at 5 a.m. I was on I-75 northbound by myself almost. And normally, if you go up north on a Friday in Michigan, it's bumper to bumper till you get past Bay City. No. And so I just set my cruise for just, a safe number and just zoom. And I stopped once for gas on the way up. I stopped a second time for gas, ran inside really quick. So 10 minutes and got to where I was going. I drove all the way up to Copper Harbor, by the way. But I was visiting stores in Calumet and Copper Harbor that carry my books. And then I drove down to Hancock. I had dinner at a place in Calumet called the Michigan House, which is an old saloon, restaurant, bar that's been there for a million years. And I had breakfast there, sitting at the bar, chatting with some of my old friends. And then got up yesterday morning and zoomed home. And then when I got home, one of my brothers called me and said, "What are you doing?" And I go, "I just got home." He goes, "Where were you?" I go, "Up north." He goes, "Oh, any chance you can swing by my house and drop something off?" Sure. Jumped in my car and drove again. Silent Hangus, is this Ewing guy related to Patrick? Not that I'm aware of, no. AJ Ewing is the stepson of a guy I've known literally for almost 60 years. Jerry Dodge, I live in Kalamazoo, but lately working past Jackson is an hour and 20-minute drive. There are some areas where it's just impossible to get there. And you're like, can you take back roads? Maybe. It's hard to say. MD Hofsey says safe number. Is that a nice lawyer speak saying for 95? Well, no, my whole point is that I don't want to get pulled over, although I do have quite successful videos when I do. But I suspect the next time it's going to be I got a ticket versus I got pulled over. Johnny Knoxville, I'm driving 8 hours. I'm staying the weekend. I had issues that kept me from staying the weekend. We'll talk about that coming up very, very soon. Steve says AJ's batting sixth and playing center field. Yeah, he's been playing center field the entire time since he got called up. But if he's batting sixth, that's right around what they've been doing with him lately. Hey, Joe Cram's got a Breitling Navitimer Las Vegas edition. I'm not familiar with the Las Vegas edition of the Navitimer. I've got a Breitling on also. I have a Breitling Navitimer, very, very classic looking one, but I'm not wearing it right now. I only wear one at a time. Lock Watcher watched a movie with the neighbors last night. We watched The Founder. Michael Keaton movie about the guy, Ray Kroc, who is instrumental in the creation of the modern McDonald's. And they do kind of point out in the movie that he wasn't actually the founder of McDonald's. McDonald's was founded by the McDonald brothers, and they're the ones that came up with the idea of a fast food restaurant that had an extremely slimmed down menu. I've read books and everything on it. And when he bought them out and took over, he's the one who suggested let's franchise it. Let's let's do what we did with it. Although I think they tried franchising it earlier and it didn't work. But anyway, he basically wanted everyone to think that he was every single part of it. True's Armor. Maybe do a couple location shows at some of Michigan's spots. I don't really have good equipment for that, and I wouldn't want to do it with a phone. Just a phone, like, hello. Oh. Tigerman 99515 center fielder means he's fast. Yes, he is, and he's made some really good plays. About a week ago, he threw somebody out at home, And it was, I mean, people were freaking out. I actually saw people were posting on Twitter, like, check out this play. And in the minor leagues last year, he stole 70 bases. 70. 70. Johnny Z says they got pulled over on I-80 in Indiana for 75 and a 70. And that's the problem. Somebody asked what's safe. You're almost always safe driving 4 over with crews, right? Are you safe at 5 over? Apparently not, you know. But that's the concern. I mean, I know people who set their crews at 8 over and just hope the cop's not looking for fives, but you never know. Stormtrooper 88's checking out later, I guess. Fatima Butterpants, I once drove from Raleigh to Montreal, had dinner, and drove back. Oh, when I got out of my meeting in Copper Harbor, just on a lark, I punched my home address into my mapping software and goes, you can be there by 11:30 tonight. And I actually considered it. And that would have been something like 11 or 1200 miles, maybe more in one day. And no, I decided not to. And I went and had dinner with my friends. Mark Miller, 70 bases stolen. That is Ricky Henderson territory. He is fast. He is very, very fast. Dark, what I think my longest drive was 16 hours. I've done a long drive, although I've taken naps along the way. Drove to California in 1989 to go to law school with a carload of stuff from one of my brothers. And we drove nonstop, except we stopped twice. 2 hours, 2 hours. Drove straight through otherwise. And parts of that trip are just a blur. Other parts are foggy, but fun to think about. And I remember driving through the desert. I did a video about this, I think, on my backup channel. Driving through the desert as the sun rose on the second day. And the bats were just flying home for the morning, for their morning commute. Amber Mist, I'll be in Detroit for a delivery on Monday. The delivery is off of Gratiot Avenue. That's a major thoroughfare in Detroit, though it's not the Fago plant. Gratiot Avenue is one of the spokes that comes out of Detroit. There's several. There's Grand River, Woodward, Gratiot, and so on. And they run from downtown out. And a couple of them go way, way. Grand River goes a real distance one direction. Woodward goes a good distance. Gratiot likewise. So Johnny Z says my first tick was 80 to 55 and a VW Bug. Wow. Alex Nandy says most highways in Ontario, you could probably set your cruise for 15K over, but keep in mind that's 9 over miles per hour and just be keeping up with traffic. Well, that's always the thing. But if you're in traffic, you're not going to be using the cruise. But I'm talking about when you're on the road, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. The sun is just coming up. There's no traffic and 3 lanes. You set the cruise and just steer, So Nick Bradley, he's been through the desert in a car with no name. It's true. I don't name my cars. It's a black Daytona. And it survived almost the entire time I was in law school, and the transmission blew up one day. Steve says AJ was born in Kettering, Ohio. It's 8 minutes away from me. I was born at Kettering Hospital. My mother was a nurse there. That rings a bell because my friend, his stepfather, lives in a suburb of Cincinnati. And I seem to recall hearing the name Kettering. Yeah, Tiger Man says 80 and a bug. Was it falling off a cliff? Acceleration due to gravity. Echo Tracks, I flew from Ohio to LA to eat at an In-N-Out and watch planes land and then flew home the same night. Would you have like frequent flyer miles you needed to burn or something? There's an In-N-Out now very near the airport. And I remember one time I went to California not so long ago, and I'm like, I'm going to do In-N-Out first thing off the plane, In-N-Out. And so I get off the plane, get my rental car, and I drive and see In-N-Out, and the line goes out the parking lot and around the building, like around the building and then around the block. It was crazy, but the line was moving pretty good, so I did it in a rental car. I am McNathan Grand River runs all the way to Lansing. Doesn't it run beyond Lansing? I thought it did. Dan Boyd, Kettering is a suburb of Dayton. Oh, okay. I might be confusing where my friend lives, but what are you gonna do? Echo Tracks. Just love planes and burgers. Oh boy. And there's people out there who claim that, In and Out's not all that good compared to others. And I'll grant you, Culver's is very good. I like Five Guys, although frankly, Five Guys is expensive. I went into a Five Guys not long ago with one other person. We both ordered modest meals, and I pulled out a 50. And I was about to ask them if they could break it, and I realized, oh, I might not get change. It was that bad. It was that bad. Leadoff batter for the Mets just hit a home run, deep center. Cool. MD Hofsey, thank you very much. Primus says In and Out is delicious, but they keep small locations. The reason that brings people in because it always looks busy. Well, that's probably part of it. Although I know there are locations where they don't even have an inside. There are pure drive-through In and Outs. I remember specifically going to one that was just it had two drive-through lanes and a little building, I mean there's picnic tables, but there's no inside. So Scott Levine or Scott Levine says, I'm an attorney in Florida. Love your YouTube channel. Thank you, my friend. What kind of law do you practice? I'm curious. I'm just curious. Sarah Casey agrees with me. Culver's is delicious. Yeah, and Culver's might still be semi-regional. I'm not sure they spread across the country yet. I think they're expanding kind of what In and Out is, but they were founded, I think, in Minnesota or Wisconsin, and they have spread into Michigan and other states nearby. Tiger Man says the Mets have quality announcers. Quality announcers. Pontiac Junkbird. What about rallies? Rally burgers are okay. I don't care for the fries though. I don't know something about the fries. Belia, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. Yeah, and the food's horrible in such small portions. Primus says, yeah, some In and Outs are like that. I assume you're referring to my In and Out comment. Lock Watcher Tom Hanks was originally asked to be in The Founder. It's always funny to hear about people who passed on things, and some of them you wonder if they're true or not. But it's like, what if instead of I don't know, um, Steve McQueen in The Great Escape, instead it was like John Wayne or something. Tiger Man says there are Culvers in Tucson. Okay, they're getting out there. Steve says AJ played for Springboro High School. I do remember a guy getting drafted from there. It had to be him. Springboro is just east of 75. It's not really a suburb of either city. There you go. But I can tell you that he was drafted right out of high school. He also had Division One schools offering him scholarships, but he was told there's a good chance he'd be playing real soon, and here you are. Chris Podesa, they still have A&Ws. Yeah, I drove by one the other day. There's a few of them in Michigan, although there's also a few that transitioned into just standalone restaurants and decided not to be a franchise. Oh, Johnny Knoxville says that Craig Culver's got a fatty pad on Green Lake in Wisconsin, which is a pretty pricey lake. Oh, yeah. See, and the thing is, Culver's, I believe, I'm not sure it's still true, but it's founded as a family run business. And so because of that, they can control it better. The same is true with In and Out. In and Out Burger was run by I believe, a family, and then as family members passed away, I think the daughter now controls it, and she's been offered cajillion dollars to sell it, and doesn't want any of it because she just wants the company to grow at its own pace the way she wants to do it. And let's face it, some huge hedge fund could buy it, turn it into something else entirely different, and then crash and burn it. I mean, so I'm glad. Echo Tracks In and Out has their systems down. That's why they're so popular. They're so consistent across the chain. And likewise, the fresh hamburger, In and Out basically grinds their own. And so before they'll put a bunch of restaurants in one location, they'll make sure they've got the facilities to create the hamburger for the burgers. And so when you go in there, it's not just that it's fast, it's the food is good. It's actually good. Nico Pessoa, have you been driving the Viper around lately? No, I have not in the last few weeks, like the last week or so. I've driven it a couple times this year, but I hate to say it. When I walk out the garage on a nice sunny day, I'm going to go for a short drive. I jump in the Cobra, top down, that kind of thing. Jerry Dodge used to work at the first Culver's that opened in Michigan. He likes their North Atlantic cod. So there's Jerry going to the hamburger place for fish. But that's okay. I went to Long John Silver's all the time for the chicken tenders. Nancy Du Bois says private equity firms shouldn't be allowed to buy up restaurants and ruin the food. Well, or just look at the corporations they buy and they take out all the equity and liquidate the company. And there's been a few companies that have been destroyed that way. Fast Eddie Portillo's is a better burger than In and Out. I've been to Portillo's, but aren't they famous for their hot dogs? That's what I had when I was there. Stormtrooper's back. My wife said I can stay longer. Johnny Knoxville, who many people don't know, although he's currently east somewhere, is very knowledgeable of the Wisconsin area. The first Culver's was in Sauk City, Wisconsin. Sauk City. Beely, all this talk is making me hungry, and these pretzels are making me thirsty. Oh. Mini drivers, I'm planning an unofficial cannonball run in my Mini in September just for fun. That'd be fun to do. Or maybe just do, Route 66, that kind of thing. Just a long road trip, but not be in a hurry. Not be in a hurry. Johnny Knoxville's outing himself and says, yes, I grew up in Milwaukee and I live in Chapel Hill, North Carolina right now. The Misty Kushner says In-N-Out burgers are great, but their fries lose their freshness fast. That's what I like about Five Guys. You go in there, you go, I want a large fry, and they literally give you like a bushel of fries. Like they put it in something, but then they just dump in more, and the bag is filled with fries. And I think they just realize, like, hey, look, these fries cost us almost nothing. Just give them away as long as they buy the burgers, etc., at these crazy prices. Dan Boyd says pretzels are an excellent vehicle for mustard. They are a mustard delivery device. Yes, they're a gateway to mustard. Airy M says we are smoking brisket on the new Traeger today. So there we go, talking about food. Stormtrooper points out that an equity firm took over a lot of the USA housing market from now on. You got to rent to live now costs money. Well, and I read a couple books about that. One of the things that happened in the big crash of 2008 was all those bank foreclosures, right? And so when the bank foreclosure wave swept the nation, a bunch of equity firms that have way too much money started buying up homes, just turning them into rentals. And so when the market turned around, people go, I'm going to go buy a house. Housing prices are way up because there aren't as many houses on the market anymore. So there you go. Hang on a second. Okay. I've got a mirror right here, which, by the way, came out of one of my old Explorers. And I'm like, oh, I need a mirror. There we go. 56 Spook Dog mustard is my number one condiment. Yeah, actually, I like mustard. Sometimes I do burgers with just mustard. and no ketchup. I had one last week that way. Tim Nosmus' Portillo's is also famous for their Chicago beef sandwiches. Chicago beef sandwiches. William Harrell says can't beat the moms and pops restaurants off the beaten path for service, personnel, treatment, service, and food quality. Like I mentioned, I had lunch or dinner Friday night at the Michigan House in Calumet, which is a saloon restaurant that's been there since the 1800s, I think continuously. And the food is fantastic. The people there are really nice. Nick Bradley, the live is degenerated into a fast food menu discussion. He lost his proposition bet on misappropriated trucks being the topic. Oh, Lock Watcher. Remember when the word sugar was used in cereal names? Chocolate coated sugar bombs. Echo Tracks The Big Short is the best primer on the 2008 crash. There's a couple good ones. I read the book The Big Short though, and I seem to recall the movie's good also. Mitch says they need to get some White Castles in the UP. I'm not a big fan of the White Castle. I understand there's a whole acquired thing there. I'm not a fan. The UP's obviously has a Culver's. There's a Culver's over there in what would they be called? In the Houghton area, right outside of Houghton. Actually, I think it might be within the city limits, but I drove by it the other day. Oh, I pulled into a McDonald's the other day in the morning. I was going to get a breakfast sandwich kind of thingy. And I pull in, the car in front of me goes, I pull up the window and you know, the screen, and the screen is showing the previous person's order. And it's still showing it, and the voice comes on and goes, "Will you be using the McDonald's app today?" No, thank you. I look at the screen and it's still showing the previous order. Woman goes, "You can go ahead and order." And I go, "Well, can I see the menu?" And she goes, "I'm sorry, I'm not in control of that." I go, "So I'm looking at the previous order. There's nothing you can do about that?" And she goes, "No." So I just left, went and got breakfast someplace else. Yeah, MD Hoff's The Big Short's one of the movies. Too Big to Fail is also good, as is Margin Call. Margin Call is a little bit more. I'm not sure if Margin Call is actually based on an actual true series of events with real people and so on. But The Big Short in particular is, and I believe Too Big to Fail likewise is. But those are all very, very good movies. I agree with it. David Peterson says the ham sandwich I had for lunch has been indicted. What happens now? Well, let's put it this way. If that ham sandwich were to disappear before trial, everyone might be happier. Darkwood hasn't had a pizza in 10 years. I used to live on pizza. What? Oh, pizza's like a staple. You got to have it like at least once a week, right? Crater Face's White Castle is awesome when you're drunk or high for some reason, but I'd rather have Burger King or Wendy's. I'm not a big Wendy's fan. I understand that they claim they use high quality meats and stuff, but I'm just not. Maybe it's a square burgers mess with my head. Yeah, Miko Angel like Margin Call also. 56 Spook Dog was the voice of McDonald's AI. No, I think it was some local teenager who didn't understand that you could probably press a button and get rid of the previous person's order from the screen. Vinny Slug, have you ever heard about Lou Malnati's? No, it doesn't ring a bell. Sorry. Yeah, Echo Tracks' Margin Call is in fact fictional. It's a counterpoint to The Big Short. An epic Jeremy Irons. Oh, there's a bunch of good people in that movie. A bunch of really good people in that movie, good actors and actresses. Say says they may have done that to falsify how long the order took, and that way it makes them look like they can serve customers quicker than they actually do, which would help their metrics. So I'm wondering if my driving off would hurt their metrics. Some guy pulled in, spoke to them, and left. Poop Natch says it's probably regional or location based. Wendy's is great here. Huh. Darkwood went low carb. Low carb. Johnny Knoxville, a guy I went to the Navy A school with in Pensacola, would order Hungry Howie's pizza every night. Hungry Howie's is another one. I think it's Michigan based, but they've got the flavored crusts. They're the first, I believe, the first to do the flavored crusts, like the butter crusts. It's like, sure, it didn't have enough calories. Slather on some butter. But they're good. They're good. MH08, you can't put a square burger in a round bun, obviously. Mindbend points out Arby's, and I'll tell you right now, they have the worst advertising slogan of almost all time. We have the meats. We have the meats. Somebody thought, well, it's memorable. We'll have some guy with a really deep voice say it, and then people will realize we're not just roast beef. But Arby's is famous for roast beef, okay? There's nothing wrong with being known for something that's good. So if you are the king of roast beef, don't go, well, gee, how do we get people to know we're other than roast beef? No, work on, we're Arby's. We're something other than the burger places. We're good. And 7-Up was the uncola. They didn't say, well, we're like Coke and Pepsi, but we think we're better. No, we're the uncola. Arby's, we have the meats. Which meats are the meats? Do you have ocelot? Johnny Knoxville, Hungry Howie's can't touch Buddies. Oh, agreed. Buddies is a chain based in Detroit. Johnny Knoxville and I have eaten together there, and it's something about the cheese they got, man. It is good, but I always think of Buddies as a sit down, although they do have carryouts. But I always like going to a sit down and eating Buddies. Buddies is good. Daniel Kester likes mustard on French fries. There you go. Fast Eddie, I'd like Arby's Euros. I get it every time I go there. I once had a bad experience with an Arby's Euro. And you know how that happens? You eat food one time and it doesn't sit well. And then you decide never again. So Tom Tuttle thinks ocelot might be too gamey. It tastes like chicken. Tastes like the meats. Sam as I am's got to go. Have a good one, folks. Zafar Syed, howdy. Weather was too good to not enjoy it before coming into the live. By the way, sorry I missed the book release live. We'll have more books available soon. Don't worry about it. Carl's Corner, don't forget, Arby's, America's roast beef. Yes, sir. Scrapman says Arby's has a secret menu with an item called the Every Meat Sandwich. It should be called the Meat Sandwich or the Meats Sandwich. Johnny Knoxville, July 4th weekend, looking like a possibility for me to go home to Wisconsin, maybe a sweep through Detroit. Shoot me a note. We'll do Buddies. I'll buy. Echo Tracks, the Europeans are onto something. Mayo on fries. I've never tried that before. That's interesting. MD Hoffs, the AJ Ewing struck out. That's too bad. He'll get up a few more times, I'm sure. Yeah, say points out that Taco Bell did an experiment with AI, and at one point somebody ordered a Mountain Dew and he goes, would you like to have a drink with that? There's also another time where somebody supposedly had ordered 18,000 waters. I'm filling my pool. What do you think? Yeah, AC Moreland says Lehto's Law episode number 33 just came up in my YouTube recommendations and it's 9 years old. YouTube's played with their algorithms recently, and it's not something I control, but they recommend videos to you based on what you've liked and watched in the past compared to what you haven't watched that they think you might like. And I've had several people tell me recently, they go, Steve, I didn't know you did a video 12 years ago about something. And I'm like, yeah, I did. Well, it just recommended it to me. And okay. And they probably thought you'd like it. So I hope you did if you watched it. East Wind says, I remember when a restaurant introduced fry sauce and it was ketchup and mayonnaise. It's also one of the running jokes in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Those kids are discussing the fast food restaurants they work at. They go, what's your secret sauce? Our secret sauce is ketchup and mustard mixed together. Whatever. Matawar, why don't you number your episodes anymore? Because the only reason I numbered them was for me. So I knew roughly how to find them, what order they went up in. And I don't always post them in the order I shoot them in. And I've posted them out of order and I had people freak out on me. Steve, you put like frantic emails. Steve, you made a mistake. What did I do? You put it the wrong video. And I go look at the videos. No, that's the correct video. No. But see, yesterday's video was 7.114, and this is 7.116. What happened to 7.115? I haven't put it up yet. Why not? And so I can't think there's any reason to number them that is better than me not having to put up with that. So there you go. Jillian Shaban, have you ever witnessed a decade-long or extremely long gag order? I don't work with gag orders. I did unseal documents that were, I think, 50 years old when I unsealed them for my Tucker book, but that's another story altogether. Rodney Couch, hi, Steve. Love your videos and content. Thanks for the live. My dad loved horseradish sauce on French fries. That's interesting. Johnny Z. Bradley says you can name your episodes of the series like the series Friends did. And by the way, they weren't the first ones to do that. The Far Side for years named Gary Larson named his cartoons the one about this, the one about that, the one about this. And in the back, he'd actually have an index. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. They're all blank until you got the T. And there's the one about this, the one about that, the one about this. And then Friends did it. So there you go. Chris Bodesa, how many videos have you posted on your main channel? I'm not sure if there's a way for me to figure this out. Hang on a second. If I go to my videos and type that in there, I don't think I can do it on my I can't do it on my handheld. I have to do it on my computer. Several thousand. Like I think there's probably 2,000 or 3,000 on my channel right now. But I have shot many, many more that are no longer up. I wouldn't be surprised if I've shot 5,000 videos by now. So. Yeah, John Laurie says I've got 3,000 videos and they're all about truck repossessions. Which is an inside joke for those of you who do not watch my second channel. I put up videos on another channel called Steve Lehto's second channel, I think. And I occasionally rant on there about things. Mexican Spec says, according to his sources, I'm currently showing 3,200 videos But I've shot many, many, many more than that, and I removed a ton of them, which is contrary to the advice that most YouTube creators will tell you. But I have my reasons. My reasons are my own. Mini driver's going to go out and work in the bee yard. Thanks. Catch you next time. Mindbend. The question is, do you have copies? Oh yeah, of course I've got copies of all my videos. Yeah. I have some extremely large hard drives, portable hard drives. And I think my most recent one I bought may have been 30 terabytes. May have been something like that. Cody Prine says, don't forget Steve is also on other channels. Well, the primary place you'll see me elsewhere is on VinWiki with Ed Bolian. I think he's published about 15 or 20 videos of mine there. Lion Zookeeper, have a fabulous day, everyone. Going to have my daily call with my daughter. Prodigal Stranger, a favorite fireside is a guy on a therapy couch. Doctor's note, which you can read, says just plain nuts. Primus likes VinWiki. Yeah, Ed's a great guy. Ed's a great guy. He's got a lot of interesting people on his show as well, but he's also very, very active in the car enthusiast community. Say, have you ever taken a lemon law case on a Japanese or Korean brand car or truck? Of course. Yeah. Toyota, Mitsubishi, Hyundai, Kia, Renault. Oh, I'm sorry. I think that was French. Oh. Two Left Thumb says he first saw me on Lawful Masses with Leonard French. I think I've only been on Leonard French's channel like once or twice, and that was a long time ago. And the sad part is that I was planning on being on a video with him, and I forgot what happened, but something happened that I couldn't do it. We just never rescheduled it, and I don't correspond with him as much. Leonard French is a great guy, though. He's an attorney who specializes in intellectual property, and as such, he covers some fascinating stuff. And he does a lot of really deep dives into lawsuits, puts the pleadings up on the screen and goes through them line by line. AC Moreland, Mrs. Rob Pitts, the Rabbit, VinWiki is less without you. Yeah, very, very popular storyteller. Guy who sold cars and made it sound funny. John Laurie, first Lehto's Law video I watched was about the Batmobile guy getting arrested. That wasn't that long ago. That was just a couple of years ago. Say, don't forget about Le Car. Le Car. I never handled a Le Car case. I think the Le Cars were off the road by the time I became a lawyer. Vinny Slug, have you ever heard of Pizza Hut having a pizza buffet, like an all-you-can-eat buffet? Yes. The Pizza Hut in Bad Axe had that back in the 1980s. I used to go there on payday and see if I could eat them out of house and home. Go try them. Oh, got rhythm. Steve, what's your dream car you want to add to your collection? I'm low key looking for a winged car, Subaru or Daytona. I might build a clone, but I don't know. But I'm not actively looking right now. Mexican Spec, what do you think about that Gumball Rally 3000 going into Mexico where they are? I don't know much about the territories of Mexico, but I do know that Ed Bowling is one of the people who's stopping at the border and not going in. I'd be very leery about leaving the country in one of my cars for fear that somehow it wouldn't get back across the border. So Tim Nossman, you've done any work with PBS about the Italian Hall disaster or Michigan history? Yes. Not directly with PBS, but I worked with a guy who makes documentaries, and he made a documentary about the Italian Hall disaster called Red Metal. Red Metal. And it appeared on PBS in 2013 on the anniversary nationwide. And it's been shown a few times since then. You can find it online. I believe it's on YouTube. You can also buy the disc of it, a DVD of it, or probably stream it someplace. But it's out there. Red Metal. And I'm in the documentary quite a bit. MD Hofsey says that he checked another site out, and according to that, I've got 3249 on my main channel and 632 on my second channel. So added together, it'd be like 38. Okay, hang it, 38, 70, 3281, something like that. Yeah, but yeah, it does not count the hidden videos, and it does not count the ones I've removed. Chris Badesa, 4 or 5 car garage that I have. Well, I've got 2.5 car garages. Actually, I've got a 2.5 and a 3, but 2 garages. Mexican spec Ed Bolian is smart. Yeah, Ed Bolian used to sell cars. He was a car salesman, but he's had a bunch of different businesses. But he knows the industry really, really well, and he knows the exotic car market really well also. Jason Brinemar says if you build a cloned wing car, you'd love it more than overpaying for an original. Probably. I saw one go at an auction, a Superbird that was poorly optioned, like automatic transmission on the column and like a 444 barrel or something, when it was available to Hemi. Go for just I think it was under $200,000, and I was blown away because I've nicely optioned clean ones that are documented well can go for much more than that. Canadian Robot Lady's in the house, and she says Steve Lehto is still looking for a running Daewoo. The Daewoo Lanos in particular. But she's just passing through, working today, and had to jump in and remind us that there was a time when I offered a prize if somebody could show me a registration for a running Daewoo Lanos in America. Long story behind why I thought that was funny. And it was, by the way. But if I have to explain it to you now, it's not that funny. Alex and Andy, what's a hidden video? Well, if I post a video on YouTube, it goes, what do you want to do with this video? And I can say, make it public. And it's public, and then you get to see it. I can also make it private, which means that I can take the link and send it to you. And if you have the link, you can watch it. I forgot the exact terms. And then if I want to, I can also make it a step beyond that where only I can watch it. Nobody else can watch it, but I've got it there. And so I've done that to a few videos along the way. And for instance, I will shoot something I want to show to my brother. I'll shoot it, upload it as private, and send him the link. I'll here, click this, you can watch a video I posted. MD Hofsty, love the range it gives for your YouTube income. It's like we have no idea what it makes. So it's a dartboard, go throw a dart. Interestingly, if you know a few more things about how YouTube works, you can figure it out. But it is funny because the range does appear to be meaningless. It's kind of like, somewhere in the range of 3 to 200. Okay? Canadian Robot Lady's nice to be here, but gotta go. It was fun while it lasted, my friend. Mark Miller, isn't Daewoo a subsidiary of Nissan? I don't know who owns them. Oh, Johnny Knoxville, unlisted. There we go. Unlisted versus private. So if it's unlisted, it's not there unless you have the link. Joey C says, oops, I'm watching 20 minutes behind. You're living in the past, my friend. Eric W, hypothetical, what do you do with the body of someone that you accidentally shot while out hunting? Who? Oh, boy. Dan Boyd reminds us of the 1988 Pontiac Le Mans, which was a Daewoo product. I had a friend who worked at Pontiac at that time, and she showed me that car, and she goes, "Yes, the new Le Mans." I'm like, "Have they no shame? They'll just dig up an old name and slap it on anything." Lock Watcher's got the stream running while working in the shop. Johnny Knoxville, Canadians are upset about the Stanley Cup playoffs. Don't blame them. Wouldn't want to watch Vegas and Carolina. Daniel Kessler's the first time I saw Steve was on Leno's garage about the turbine car. It's a long time ago. Although I'm hoping to get back on there at least one more time. We'll see. Say Oss's GM now owns Daewoo. But they don't sell cars in America that are Daewoo badged, do they? Although then again, somebody else, Mark Miller, says they were then sold to Tata Motors. And Johnny Knoxville points out they made cars and microwaves. You always wonder about that, when they make three different things and they're like, what? What does that have to do with each other? Steve G says I had a Maverick. It was a fun car. Now it's a truck. Yeah, that's a weird one to me. The Maverick was a little car, and to call it a truck, but it's a cool name, Maverick. So Lock Watcher, have you always done lemon law? Yes, I have. Although I started focusing on it exclusively a little while back. In other words, very early in my career, I'd handle anything because I needed the business. And I've mentioned that I even on occasion represented a couple of drunk drivers. First offense only. Belio, Jay Leno, maybe Jay can borrow Hemi under glass and take you for a ride. Yeah, famously, Jay Leno on his network TV show went for a ride with a guy in Hemi under glass, and the guy rolled the car with Jay in it. And I'm only laughing because now we can, because they were both fine. And if you watch that episode, I mean, it messed the car up bad, but luckily nobody had their hands out the windows or anything. And there's two old guys, and the thing comes to a stop. And they're like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" They're both okay, but man, that would get your attention real fast. John Laurie, do you like the movie And Justice for All? That's been a while. I can't remember how long it's been since I saw that, but it's quite a while ago. Hey, Isaac Bob York is watching Ice Hockey World Cup, Finland versus Switzerland. Go Finland. And thank you for reminding me. I got some notes about that yesterday. So, Dan Boyd, Jay's been through some real automotive mishaps. He's probably the only person we can say who has been both burned by a 1908 white steam car and in a Hemi Barracuda that rolled. And is still around to talk about it. Josh Holman, good afternoon, and to one and all as well. Zafar Syed is 4 minutes behind myself. Well, you can always click live chat and go to the bottom and just keep up and go back and look later or something. Given Fox 968, hi Steve, good to see you posting on your Twitter account. Yeah, I post once a day. I post a link to my video. I haven't posted a non-video link on Twitter in probably a couple of years. which is even worse than my Instagram account, which has, I think, 10 posts. And about once every 6 months, I post just to see if anybody's paying attention. And like 3 people are. And there's like 100 bots who subscribe to it. Edward, is that Edward Savilla or Edwards Avella? I'm a Wayne State University grad. Where'd you go to law school? Wayne State University is a law school. Well, Wayne State University grad. Did you go to law school at Wayne State or just undergrad? Wayne State's a school in downtown Detroit. And I, for instance, taught at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Law. I went to law school in Los Angeles at Southwestern University. And the reason that is that I graduated in less than 2 years. They had a program where you get in and out in 23 months. So to me, it was worth to save a year to go out to California. It also forced me to kind of focus on things. But yeah, I went to law school in California. Did not take the California bar, though. People ask me that. It's always a follow-up. Oh, did you take the California bar? No. Lockwatch, have you ever attended the Indy? No, I have not. But I can tell you that I watched the last 1 second of the race. That's all you needed to see. I watched the last like 20 laps. And I was so scared they were going to end it under a yellow, but they didn't. So there you go. Mike Torello says that YouTube has been giving him notifications of the live streams. Yeah, I don't really know. That could be my problem because when I set these things up, there's a last button I can push. When I push it, it resets my microphone, so I never push it until we're going live. And I think that might be part of the problem, but I don't know. Dan Boyd says he saw a YouTube video where Jay was cruising through the canyons in his Mercedes Gullwing transport truck replica, and he scraped the trailer on some roadside rock formation. I did not see that. Echo Tracks, the Wayne Detroit moniker, such as the airport in the county, a reference to Mad Anthony Wayne. Yes. Yes. General Mad Anthony Wayne. I believe there's even a statue to him someplace around here in southeastern Michigan. But yes, absolutely. And what often happens with place names is when they're first being established, whoever's in the news at that time. And so you'll find places like Buchanan, Michigan, probably founded when Buchanan was president, you know? Jason Brennmauer, Jay Leno has mishaps because he's a real guy who really does the work. Well, and he also, he's not quiet about it. So he has no shame at all in saying, yeah, I got injured, and here's how. He knows he's in the public eye. The Mysticutioner says Jay Leno holds the record for getting a speeding ticket in the oldest car. Did he get a speeding ticket in a steam car? One of his early steam cars? Dan Boyd says, and Jay would be less worried because his shop can fix anything. And actually, that is absolutely true. He's got guys in his staff who do body work, electrical work, engine work, frame work, you name it, they can do it. And if they can't, they know who can. But why? How many times had you taken the LA baby bar? Or is that just a Kim Kardashian thing? So what's happening there, just so you know, is that California for years had 2 tracks to become an attorney. You could go to a accredited school, get your JD, and then take the bar. Then they said, or you can go to a non-accredited school. After you graduate from your non-accredited school, you can then take the baby bar. And if you pass the baby bar and do some other things, you can then take the California bar. So if you go to an accredited school, you don't need to take the baby bar. My understanding is that Kim Kardashian didn't want to go to an accredited school because that'd take a lot of time, and instead was doing the alternate route. And so it's take the baby bar, and once you pass that, you then later can take the actual bar that other people took. I didn't take either one. I came back to Michigan and immediately took the Michigan bar and passed. Tigerman99515 points out that Jay Leno and his guys often 3D print a bunch of old parts you can't find anywhere. And they often will 3D print a part in plastic and send it out to have it cast, depending what kind of material is going to be used. And I remember when I visited his garage back in 2009. I mean, it was a long time ago. And he had a 3D printer already. And I'd heard of them. I'd never seen one before. This thing is huge, like the size of a refrigerator. And he showed me a part where they'd taken apart an old engine. And I think it was the neck that goes into the engine block for the radiator connection. And it was brass and it was cracked. And his guys had scanned it and using other magical CAD stuff had created a plastic version of it, which they then sent out and had it cast. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Been a while. But why? Thank you, Steve. Love you. And you, my friend. Say, Austin, you could always take the Baby Ruth bar. The Baby Ruth fortune. Don't forget about that. Deanne Boyd touring Jay's garage is a real bucket list item here. Oh, item. I thought that's time. I'm like, item. Okay. I've been there 3 times. 3 times. Mark Miller didn't know that about Jay's vehicles. What didn't you know? Oh boy. Yeah, Jay's got over 200 cars. He's got a couple hundred motorcycles. They all run. They're all plated. The ones that don't run are being made to run soon. And he takes very good care of them. He loves them all, and he drives them all as often as he can. Oh, Johnny says, but why is a friend of mine who I told was in your chat today, and she decided to show up and troll. Okay. Mitch, thank you very much for your videos and live chats. Much appreciated out here in the land of moose and squirrel. I've never seen a moose in the wild, but on Friday, driving north as I passed through Ishpeming, I kid you not, a bear ran across the road in front of me. And I didn't have a camera out, so I didn't get a picture, but this bear just goes running across the road. And I've seen bears in the UP, but it's been over 10 years since I saw one. And so I saw a bear near Ishpeming, but I've not seen a moose in the wild. But why says total fake news? Not a friend of Johnny Knoxville's. He just wants my body, but I love you. Oh, and I of course believe anything that's written on a screen with a thumbnail that's the size of a pencil eraser that I can't even focus my eyes on. Anything said by that person is obviously true. Oh boy. Johnny Knoxville, maybe she'll become a subscriber. Oh, I can only dream, my friend. Could you make it happen? Could you put in a kind word? I do need one more subscriber. Cody Prine, was he chasing a moose? No. If he's chasing a moose, I would have seen the moose, I would think. Vinny Slug, have you ever heard of a restaurant called Raising Cane's? I've heard of it. Never eaten there. Arts 4014, I didn't get an invoice note. Did my book email come through? I can't tell by looking right now, but send me another email and put the word book in the subject line and put follow up so I know what it is. Okay? Darkwood, was the bear streaking? Yes, the bear was not wearing any clothing. He just went running across. Isaac Bob York, I almost hit a wild moose with her two kids with my moped in the middle of a Stockholm suburb. You got to be careful because moose bites can be nasty, or so I've heard. Scooters Pops, only time I've seen a bear is in a cage, I believe in Mile. I mean, I've seen them in zoos, but I went to Bern, Switzerland, and there's a holding thing outside of town that supposedly they had bears there. In fact, I guess Bern means bear in Swiss. No bears when I was there. I traveled to Switzerland once in my life and go to a town named for bears. No bears. Oh. Chris Badesa says moose will total a vehicle, and that is true. Jason Brindamar, my CB handle was Flash. Flash. I can tell you right now, I've got a friend who for years had a CB radio in his car, and he loved getting on the freeway. And this is sad, but he would start arguments with people. He's trolling on a CB. Pete O 4161, has anyone ever mistaken you for Bobby the Brain Heenan? No, but I've had people say that. I've had people say that I look like Bobby the Brain Heenan. I've also heard Chris Matthews from MSNBC or CSN, what NBC, whatever it is. And yeah, no, but I've heard it before. Yeah, Lockwatcher says since I didn't have my camera, it may have been Bigfoot. Darkwood says that sometimes bears go on a walkabout across several states and then go back home. Yeah, they've always been surprised. They'll put a radio tracker on a moose or a bear. I've also seen them talking about like mountain lions and stuff. And occasionally they'll get bored in one territory and just go for a hike, you know. Trying to stay hydrated. I'm trying to stay ahead of it. Jason said there were bears in Flat Rock this year. I've seen several articles pop up on local news channels about bears being spotted on like ring cameras and so on downriver. And most maps of Michigan, you say, like, where are the bears located? They show you the lower Michigan. They draw a line and they go from here up for the most part. And apparently one's just wandered down there looking for probably garbage cans. Surprisingly, that was cold. It came out of here. It's been in here for 2 hours. It came out cold. Gotta love the Yeti cooler somebody sent me. Lock Watcher, do you see foxes daily? Not daily, but I've got foxes living on my property. I picked them up on my cameras a few times at night. I've never seen foxes with my own eyes on my property. I've seen coyotes, however, and I've got coyotes on my property. My understanding is that the coyotes are around, the foxes become scarce. But I can tell you that I've actually been sitting in my living room. I see something at the corner of my eye, I turn to look. It's a coyote just trotting through my backyard, broad daylight. I actually got some film of one a little while back. Johnny Knoxville, what color Gatorade are we consuming today? Well, it is always a mix of 50-50 water and the yellow-green Gatorade. It's the kind of thing that I got started on a long time ago, and how it goes. But Y07 says that hydration is very important for life and all aspects of life. Darkwood had a bear in his Louisiana neighborhood that was tracked out of Florida, eventually went back. To do that, did it have to cross the Mississippi River? Or am I misunderstanding something there? Makes you wonder. Steve says in a walking trail, either a fox or a coyote decided to run alongside me for a few seconds. Arts 4014 sent the book fault. Thank you very much. Chris Bedesa says bears can swim. Oh, I don't doubt it. Moose can swim too, but that's a pretty big river. They got to get across the river by swimming, or of course they could walk across a bridge. Oh. Isaac Bob York says parts of Louisiana are on the east side of the Mississippi. Oh, that's right. That's right, because it comes down and there's that delta down there. You're right. It takes somebody from Europe to remind me the geography in America because that lousy educational system. No, I'm just kidding. Yours truly says a coyote ate my cat. I recently had neighbors move, and somebody new moved into the house. So I went over to say hello to them, and I was just making small talk with them. And I said, "Oh, by the way, just to let you know, because they have a little dog about this big." I go, "What's that dog weigh? 3 pounds?" I was joking. They go, 8. I think they were fudging. I think it's more like 5. But I gotta be careful. I go, "There are coyotes on this property," and they said, "Oh, really?" I said, "I know because I live right there, and the coyotes on my property, and they don't stick within the property lines. They can't tell, so you got to be very careful." Josh Homan, probably most animals can swim. Many animals can, and surprisingly, like for instance, elephants can swim. The question is how far they enjoy swimming versus how far they can swim if push comes to shove. But there are some animals that the wolves on Isle Royal don't come across in the summertime. They cross the ice bridge in the winter when there's an ice bridge. John Laurie suggests that fish can swim. I've seen fish trying to get out of the water. I've seen flying fish. I've also seen carp on a hot day, which I think can kind of breathe out of water for a little while. But Darkwood, yup, a coyote snatched my neighbor's little dog. He's never seen again. MH08, clams have legs. Isn't it also from Wizard of Id or BC? Chris Bedesa, and some fish walk. And there's also fish with lungs. Nick Bradley later's chat. Have a good day, Steve. What about everybody else? You don't want them to have a good day? I'm just joking. Hey, Steve wants to know, can armadillos swim? Because you'd think with all that armor they couldn't, but I bet they can. But I don't know. They have stubby little legs. Jillian says, I saw a coyote roaming one night when I lived there in San Francisco. It was so creepy because I had my dog in my purse. I read the sentence before I saw your username. I thought it was going to be a joke and about hit him with your purse. But yeah, it's funny. Darkwoods' Carp on a Hot Day is a good band name. I was thinking more of an album name. That's ever our third album, the big one, Carp on a Hot Day. Art says technically clams don't have legs, they only have feet. What's the foot attached to? The shell? But why? Am I the only woman in this chat? I'm reasonably certain that a couple people above you that I've just mentioned, including somebody saying they're carrying their dog in their purse, there's two things indicative in that sentence that suggest the person is a woman. One, their dog is tiny and fits in a purse. And two, they carry a purse. Oh, MD Hofsty says AJ's in the hole, which is beyond being on deck. And they start play shortly. Keep me updated. Maine Marines armadillos have arms, not legs. Really? They've got 4 arms? Wikipedia says armadillos can swim, but they can also hold their breath for 6 minutes. Oh. Leapy Ars I'm a woman with a very strange username. Mark Miller knew of a band called Gibraltar, which he thought was a clever name because, of course, the rock of. Echo Tracks is the Detroit Grand Prix just concluded. I didn't even know it started yet. Silent Hangus reminds us that Gatorade was developed to keep athletes hydrated at the University of Florida. And then the people thought, hey, we should sell this to other people. We can convince them that this Kool-Aid is good for them. Mary M indicates that she is, in fact, a woman here. Belio, it might not be a person. It could be European. But why says I live in South Beach, so little dogs and purses are not indicative of being carried by women only. That's true. I think in South Beach, all bets are off. Oh, boy. Josh Homan, whales or mammals? Whatever. Hall Effect Media, my wife and I are watching together, if that counts. Vinny Sluga, did you hear about the cop who pulled over a woman who has no right hand on her right arm, and she got a ticket? Yeah, there's a video about it on YouTube. I just saw about 11 o'clock this morning. John Nowak Jr. is alive in Corpus Christi. And Bob Loblaw is in the house. Bob, good to see you, my friend. I'm starting to wonder about you. Daniel Kester says spiders and grasshoppers can swim. Would a spider swim or like walk across the top of the water using surface tension? I've seen bugs do that. Scrapman, what exactly is a platypus? It is a mammal. It is a very unusual mammal. Lock Watcher, do you own any lock picks? I do not. No, I know how to pick a lock. If you handed me a rake and a tension wrench, I could do it. But it's been a long time. I had friends who picked locks as a hobby, and they taught me how to do it. Mexican Specs is on that no right hand woman thread. I'd like to see the officer get sanctioned. But here's the thing. What we don't know is what, if anything, was happening. Because it's possible that he saw two cars go by and he got the cars confused. Or she may have had, I'm making stuff up here. What if she had a phone in her left hand? Or what if it looked like there's something in her hand when he got up there, and so should he have immediately, said, oh, nothing going on here? Probably. But the fact that he still thought he saw something is a possibility. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Bob Blah Blah says it's not only birds that fly, he's also seen a fruit fly and a horse fly. Tiger Man, do you do watch repair? No, I just try not to break the ones I've got. Johnny the Bike Guy, SLC. Yes, we all know about the lock picking lawyer. I've said before, the lock picking lawyer is one of the greatest video channels on YouTube, primarily because who'd have thought that a guy who's a lawyer who has a hobby picking locks could shoot videos of his own hands and nothing else, picking a lock and talking, and he'd have millions of subscribers. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought that? Like who'd imagine that? Genius, absolute genius. I love that guy. He and I have corresponded a little bit. Clay Allison says once he insisted on the right hand, he was cooked. Yeah, no, that's interestingly, it's usually the drivers who make mistakes by admitting they did something wrong. And here he committed to saying, no, it was your right hand. And she said, I don't have a right hand. He's like, well, I saw you manipulating something. So K2 Hat says, why all the old microphones? Thanks for the videos. Hi from Florida. The old microphones, of course, are right there. I've got about 10 of them right there. I got 20 more that aren't on the set. I started collecting old microphones. I worked in radio as a disc jockey back in the 80s and then 90s. And they remind me of radio. They're just there. Some of them probably work, some of them do not, but they're just antiques. I just think they're cool. I've had people offer to buy them off me. And first of all, half of them are donated by viewers, and the other half are things I got for myself. So there you go. Up, MD Hofsty says AJ is up now. He's up now. Please. Up, strike, strike. Uh oh. Mind Ben, what is the oldest mic you have? The tallest mic is the big Shure mic with the aluminum cage. Right next to it on the left, you can't see it very well here, but you can see it in the videos, is an old ribbon mic. I believe that's the oldest mic on the set. And believe it or not, the cable is still on that when I ran it down behind the case. So it has the built-in cable, but I've never tried to work it or use it, but I know it's very, very old. Say says it's lunchtime. And we are wrapping up here, but we're still waiting to see what AJ Ewing does at bat for the Mets. It looks like 1, 2, 3. Is it a full count? Full count. MD Hofsty, full count. We're doing really slow. Oh, Ewing walks. I'm going to stay live here to see what happens because I've mentioned before, how many outs are there? AJ Ewing is fast. He is fast. So don't be 2 outs. Maybe he won't run then. Darn. Because if there's no outs, he's gone. Oh boy. Yeah, Scrapman says the platypus was assembled with all the parts of animals that were left over. Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I know that when they first brought would it be platypi or platypuses back from Australia to the New World, as they say, people thought it was a hoax. Some people did. Eastwind says it's still a good time to steal second and get in scoring position. Up, he's moved to second on a single. He's moved to second on a single. Yeah, we are in overtime or extra innings. Hall Effect Media, have you ever used a Heil PR40? I'm not sure what that is. In radio, I used a lot of the Electro Voice RE20s, which is that microphone right there. And I'm so used to that, that's why I use it on my videos and my live streams. I actually have 2 of them. There's one back there you can see right there. Wow, it's hard to do. And I've also used couple weird Electro Voice microphones, and a Shure. I used a Shure SM7 for a few years. But the Electro Voice RE20 is my favorite voice mic. Let's see what happens now. Primus 1 OG, thanks for streaming. Have a great weekend, everybody. Given Fox, did you have a favorite arcade pinball or video game? Yeah. Defender. I played Defender for hours. I could play Defender forever on a quarter. Literally, I would get bored and have to quit, or I had to go to work. And yes, I played it every single day for a while as an adult. MHOH, this is making me a Mets fan. Well, the thing is, the Mets are doing really, really poorly. I would not be watching them if there was not a friend of a relative or a relative of a friend on there. Mexican Spec Super Pac-Man. Could you memorize the patterns in that though? I knew guys who memorized the patterns in Pac-Man, and they could just play that all day long too. Robert Combs played Defender. I've been toying with the idea about buying an upright Defender and literally putting it right there and just playing it when I get a few extra minutes. Dark, what I know, a radio guy who sounds totally different in real life than on the air because of the mixing. Yeah, some radio guys, they run it through graphic equalizers. They run it through compression. I toyed with the idea of using compression, but I know people would freak out if my voice changed, so I probably won't. Oh, Galago was another one of the popular ones back in the day. Swamp Rat could play for hours. Mexican Spec, yes, I knew all the patterns to Pac-Man. Miko Angel said, I bet you can play it in the browser on the Internet Archive. The problem with it was that you had to have the controls because the left hand was up and down and fire up and down and the reverse button, and the right hand was firing button and something else, and the smart bomb was in the middle. And up a walk, and now AJ's moved to third. Moved to third. So he's on base. Bases loaded, but 2 outs. Vinny Northwest, Joust, and Frogger. Joust was a funny one. Joust was Williams trying to come up with a game that you couldn't play forever. And Frogger, of course, was made famous by George Costanza. Chris Badesa stealing home. Oh my God. I wish he would. I wish he would. It's so uncommon these days. Yeah, Steve says you could also score on a wild pitch or a balk. What's funny is you see a guy on third, and it's the home team, and they're down. It's a tie game, and you see a walk-off balk. It's happened a couple of times. Dimebag Darren says radio always goes through a compressor, but I'm saying he might be running something extra on the voice. Swamp Rat, I could also play the Evil Knievel pinball machine for hours with 1/4. I saw some pinball machines that were not tipped very well, where you could play for a real long time on a quarter. And then if they give you extra balls, you can play all day. So once again, its base is loaded. Jerry Bell, are you a groundhog or woodchuck guy? I have a history with them. Silent Hangus, you're doing more promotional work for the Mets right now than the Mets have done for themselves. Well, it's not so much the promotional work. I guess I'm probably getting more people to watch than otherwise. Dan Boyd, who's on first? I mentioned in a video a while back that I was going to see a band, and somebody asked who, and I said no. Guess who? And I was hoping somebody else would jump in and continue the joke, and somebody goes, "Oh, well, the Who aren't really touring anymore, but the Guess Who is." How? Okay. Yeah, MHOA looks like the Mets won't be back in Denver this year. They won't be in Detroit this year either, as far as I know. AJ scored. AJ scored. So he got walked, scored a run. Those are good stats to have. There you go. So that's gonna wrap it up for me. I will see you guys like I always do, Monday through Monday on my main channel. And Friday at least on my backup channel. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.